Let me get to the screen as I'm being joined now by the Executive Director of Yiaga Africa, a democracy and election expert, Mr. Samson Itodo. Thank you so much, Samson, for joining us.
Always a delight.
Thank you so much. And
Always
congratulations again.
Congratulations.
Irad will open officially tomorrow. And hoping that all is set, IREV is working, and the magic of getting the result into the map for our viewers and Osun people to be able to see all of that will be ready, isn't it?
Yeah, we're very, very optimistic. We're ready at Yiaga Africa, including channels, the studio, the data center, all those who need to be trained have been trained. We're just waiting for tomorrow.
Absolutely. Let's dig in. We have a few minutes to be able to get into these data and what is important, what people need to know as of today. We know that the state was created in 1991.
That's right.
One of the youngest states created during the military era. And part of some of the legacies that the military has left for us.
That's right.
Created from the 6 region to we have 12 states to 19 to 21 to 30 states and 36 states. And this is what we have. Some of the last set of states that was created under the military in 1991. 30 local government areas with 332 wards. But as of today, what we know is a 3,763 polling units, different from 2022, when the election held last time in the state. The registered voters has incredibly moved up. 2.3.
We will see the progression. Shortly.
Absolutely. 2,333,233 registered voters. But like I always say, do not put your eyes on this figure. But the PVC collection rate is also one of the highest across the country in the last CVR. And Ekiti Osun had their own special CVR and registration done. The population of the state, as we know it, is 3.416959. If you look at this, you see that incredibly we have huge number of people who are on the on the registration of INF for an election, compared to just about less than 1.5 million people that are not on INF list. So this is a data set that everyone needs to hold on their left hand.
Yeah,
very critical.
Very important.
This especially, the PVC collection, the number of polling units, local government area, and the wards, they mean something.
Yeah, they mean something because you know you can't be declared a winner if you don't meet two conditions: majority of votes and then 1/4 of votes in 2/3 of the local government. So you need 25% of 20 local government, or in 20 local governments, to be declared a winner. So you can have majority of the votes, but you need 25% of votes in 20 local governments because that represents 2/3 of the state. If no one meets that condition, then we're going to go on a runoff. And the Constitution says INEC will have to conduct a runoff 21 days from the date of declaration. So quite important. Sharon, something interesting here. You know, in Ekiti, it was more than this. It was 91 or thereabout. Or 97, thereabout.
It's close to almost 100%.
100%, but this is 81%. Whilst the number of voters higher, but when you look at the PVC rate compared to Ekiti, this is lower than Ekiti.
Yeah, and we'll see all of those data set and how we can make sense of it. So who are the registered voters? Samson, out of the registered voters, we've been able to make sense and aggregate who they are, their occupation, and their societal profiling. This is what we have.
In fact, I would say that this election will be determined by these three categories of voters. It will be students, it will be traders, and it will be artisans. Because you see the students, they're about 32%, and the majority of them are young people. You look at traders, they're about 20%, and then artisans are about 13%. One thing, though, people say that civil servants dominate the profile of the state, but they are just 4.9%. Number of registered voters. So a combination of either these three, or perhaps you will put those who identify as business folks, they're about 11%. So I think this election will be determined by these four categories of people. More so that these two categories of people are found in the rural areas. Fishing, farming, 8%. The lowest that you have are those who identify as housewife. You know what is lovely about this state, Cheryl, is the fact that you just have 0.6% as housewives. Therefore, most of these may be dominated by females, and I think there's a data that actually shows In some states, you would see more women actually, the data for the number of housewives actually increases. So I think it says a lot about the profile of those who are on the voters register.
I mean, this is critical. People will wondering why and some of the reasons behind how students are more in a state like Osun. For example, Osun has about 15 registered tertiary institutions. And out of that, you have 3 federal universities, 2 state universities, and 10 private universities. In this state alone, you have Bowen University, you have you have Bowen, you have Redeemers, you have Adeleke University. All here. You have the University of Ife, which is second to University of Ilorin.
Very prestigious university.
Unilorin, yes, in Kwara State. Ife, for those who say University of Ife or Obafemi Awolowo University, there's a contestation whether or not they are number 2 after University of Ilorin, where I finished from.
Excuse me? Let's not go there. Let's not go
Uni Osun and Uni Obafemi
the great
Awolowo
Ife?
University.
No.
Ife is also here. So it tells you something about this data set, how we have more students, and students are likely to be the determinant of this election if they come out in that number. 32% of the registered voters. Whether or not they've all collected their PVC is another thing. But again, one other thing is that most of them, the schools are in session.
Yes, the schools are in session. But you know, what you just talked about really accounts for the fact that the people of Osun are politically savvy. And you clearly see that despite the tensed and political environment, I have seen, you know, the people of Osun exhibit resilience. They're willing to debate issues. They're willing to talk about this. And it's just that level of political consciousness. And I would say that, you know, credit to the people of Osun, really inspired by their resilience. I hope they will demonstrate that tomorrow.
Historically speaking, something, this group of people, the civil servants, have one time in this state determined the election.
Because you need their votes.
No, they were able to determine the labor, the civil servant, the teachers. In fact, they were a big block to convince for an election.
They still are, because if you treat these people poorly, it will definitely impact on your
over the
electoral
years,
outcome.
this number, the trading population has increased in Osun. It wasn't this much. Before now, it used to be the farmer, the artisans, and the civil servants, and the public servants. That is the number of, in the aggregation of the profiling of the society.
One argument you can also make is that these civil servants have families. And these families could probably be business people. Some could be students. Some could be involved in trading. And so when you look at how parents influence voting choices, and you have family members that toe the ideological line of their parents, you can't discard these people. Because these civil servants are actually what you call the perpetual voters. They always vote.
Because they matter. They understand. The public servant, I put these two together because they always are impacted by the policy of government.
That's 7%. Because 4.9 plus 2.1 just gives you about 7%. Very critical. In this election, very competitive, one vote can make a difference.
Now, this group of people, don't dare them. They watch a lot of Nollywood. They probably stay at home all day to take care of their children. But a lot of them, you see them in the different, they go for Party A's campaign. They are the same sort of people that will go for Party B. Before their husband come back from work, they may have gone to 3-4 campaigns and they get the benefit of those campaigns.
Quite frankly,
so these people too are very critical.
Do not joke with these people.
Don't joke with them.
And don't forget, this is not just the number, because you have women who are involved in trading. And I can argue that majority of those who are actually traders are women. These are where you have market women.
The difference is that these are housewives. The profiling of them is that they are probably, their job is to take care of the home. And that's why they are not on this list. But the reason is that these guys are always watching something. They know a lot, and they will determine. Sometimes
they do know a lot.
They've junketed around the different campaigns.
They talk about politics, they talk about the parties in such a very interesting way.
Let's get into these, everyone. In the local government and how heavy or what you need to expect, this is very critical for the election.
I think the next slide puts this in proper perspective. Where you see the 3 senatorial districts and where you have the highest number. This is where, or
It's Osun East that has the largest.
Yes, Osun East.
But I mean, all the three local governments are head to head. And but where some of the areas that you need to look out for, Osogbo, Ede, Irepodu, local government. These are local government with heavy presence of voters.
Voters, but also people who collected their PVCs.
And equally, each of the senatorial districts have 10 local governments.
Yes, they shared equally, but also if you look at the difference between PVC, collected PVCs, which I think we will get to, you clearly see that the difference is just either by 1 or 2%. So they are really between 81, 80, 82% collection rate. So and we will see the battlegrounds.
Absolutely.
I think this has to do with the trends. You can see the
progression,
progression.
It has moved. It has increased over the years.
Yeah. But when you look at the increase, you just discover if you compare the increase from 2026 and 2018, they're all at 19%. Because between 2018 to 2022, it was just 8.7%.
And this is a huge improvement.
This is a huge improvement.
And it's a lot. And this could mean something.
It could mean a lot.
Yeah. So you look at it, the voter turnout, it has been also incremental in some way, staggered at some point. You look at 2023 and 2026.
We need to give it to the Osun people. Compared to other states, they're actually short. In fact, on the national average, we don't hit 42% nationally. We just hit 27% in 2023. But in Osun, just at the last election, it was 42%. They've been on that trajectory, save for the presidential elections. That's why we hope that, they can move this, back to where they were in 2014, where they're about 53%. I think that will be historic, and they have an opportunity to make that history.
Absolutely. So you look at the
PVC collection.
So you see that there's a lot. Most of them are in 80-something% in terms of collection. But for what is significant is the KKK local government in Osun. You talk about Iwo, you talk about Ife Central.
You can talk about KKKs without Osogbo.
Osogbo, absolutely. I mentioned it earlier. Osogbo, Iwo, and where is
Ife? The Ifes.
The Ifes, about three or so local government, or four local government in Ife.
Is Ife Central,
and the Edes, usually they vote in a direction, and if you aggregate the Ede North and Ede South, it gives you almost 170,000 voters, because they vote in a block. It is always very significant. In Olorun, that local government, this is another local government above the 100,000 margin. And Osogbo is key. If you win Osogbo, you win Ife, you win Ede, you are home and dry. You just need the second leg of the league. All of those permutations come.
We will do that tomorrow. What is interesting is you look at 16 out of these 30 local governments, they actually record over 82% collection rate. And that tells you that, yes, to a large extent, there is interest on the part of people, but PVC collection does not equal turnout. And so we want to plead with the people of Osun that they've always set the pace in terms of turnout. This is an opportunity to set a new record. And if they can show up and record 60%, they would have written their names, in the annals of our electoral history, that at such a time, they did show up to cast their vote.
Second Republic, Third Republic is a very significant, and Osun State is very known. It's a significant state in the history of Yoruba land. This is a seat of the Oni of Ife. This is the seat of the very royal and highly placed of Ede. And there are significant, and the Osogbo monarch is also very significant. And there's a popular Osogbo. So historically, traditionally speaking, culturally speaking, Osun State is very rich.
Spiritually speaking.
Have
you been to the Grove?
Because Oni of Ife is not only a traditional head, it's also a spiritual head.
That's right.
The Ataoja also is also a spiritual head within the Yoruba cultural cosmology. So it's very significant that these people hold a very significant position in the Southwest and in the Yoruba politics.
That's right. So when you look at the senatorial district, Osun Central has the highest collection rate. Like you always say, don't look at the registered figure, look at the PVCs that are collected.
Absolutely.
So you see that in Osun Central, over 646,000 people collected their PVCs, so they are 82%.
Yeah.
The lowest is Osun East with 80.7%. Still a high figure, but I think we've got to keep our eyes on this. Now,
So,
the hotspots.
The hotspots. Interesting. So, and the number one is Osogbo.
Osogbo.
Of course. It's the capital.
Yeah, we recorded about 11 deaths
Yeah.
between June 2025 and August 2026, based on the Election Security Information Hub of the Kuka Center. There were 11 incidents, 11 deaths in Osogbo alone. So these are the 13 what you call hotspots. Osogbo, Irewole, Boripe, Obokun, of course, the Ilesha zone, Ife as well, and Ede. These are real hotspots. And we hope that there will be maximum security deployment, in this
axis, Obokun, Ilesha West, Ilesha East, what we call the Ijesha and Ijebu-Jesha land.
That's right.
Has been very hot in the last few weeks, and we've seen quite a lot of violence. Of course, Osogbo, we know. Ede is on the spotlight because the significance of the political presence there. Iwo, of course, is also another place to look out for. And in some of the local government that are in the border, the state is bordered about 5 or so states, and it tells you something that a lot of what happens, you can see the influx and the coming into the state will be a lot of those who have interest from neighboring states. But these are the local governments.
You know what's particularly troubling? When you look at the map, it's actually widespread. It's not condensed all over the senatorial district.
Almost an equal share.
Yeah, exactly. And that is really troubling, because if this hotspot, if nothing is done to de-escalate or address, the situations in those locations, imagine if in this 13 states you have disruptions, of elections. It's definitely going to affect this. And what we don't want is an inconclusive election. The election should be concluded so that the people of Osun can move on.
If I say one thing that causes me some kind of worry, the Ife axis and the Ijesha axis. These areas are very critical, and security operatives.
And what's been really troubling is the fact that you have political leaders from those states, from those
and the rhetoric, the narrative,
the rhetoric
have been very concerning.
Very, very concerning. They've heated up the polity, and if we go into this election, with this tempo, then I think our security agencies will have a lot of work to do.
Those who do the mathematics of election, these are the figures that you need to put to your mind. Osogbo, like I mentioned to you, 167,704 registered voters. But something you also need to know is that about 130,000 of them have collected their PVC, because the collection rate is about 81%. You look at Olorunda, 123,000, Ife Central, 122,000, Ife East, 128,000, Ife South, 66,000. Ife's axis is very critical.
These are battleground local
you know what
governments.
happened in the last election? The role Ife played in swinging the election
it's still gonna
for
play,
Aregbesola at the time.
It will still play,
and it's going to
play that role. It's always competitive, because these 8 battleground, in fact, I could add 2, Irewole, as well as Ejibo, where the ADC candidate actually comes from. So I would say there are about 15 battleground local governments.
Iwo, Odoti, Ilesha, these are also areas to look out for. But, well, these
very interesting. But you know why I'm so excited as of this evening? When the court issued the order and the ballot papers had to be reprinted, and there was a disruption in the normal calendar of deploying materials, and INEC couldn't deploy early yesterday until late into the night, and by 4 a.m., these materials have been dispatched. It's really heartwarming that despite this disruption, INEC was able to deploy those materials to the local governments, because we went out today and we can actually confirm that in those local governments, the materials are already at the local government. And I think it attests to that institutional resilience. And we hope that, tomorrow, the polling units will open very early, because there's a lot of movement happening tonight, and hoping that security agencies are also providing, the maximum security for those materials to move from the local governments to the racks, so that polling units can open early tomorrow.
Something, I guess you're ready, you and your team. I know that the PVT
Yes.
is also going to be you tracking the result independently.
Yeah.
And of course, we are monitoring the IREF.
IREF and the ERAF.
Whatever that is going on, we've got our team right there monitoring. And of course, we'll bring everything for our viewers
tomorrow
to be able to understand the ERAD. The magic is in our hands. If you read the election, we will know.
I was just going to say that we have good news for them.
Yeah.
And just to say, don't waste your time manipulating this election, because if you do, we will detect it and we would expose it. And that's what this whole process is about. Conferring and ensuring that the votes actually count. Is the mandate that we have, and we will discharge that mandate.
Thank you so much. And we are glad to do this with Yiaga Africa.
Always
right
always
here
a
on
delight.
Channels Television.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.